Hello everybody, I'm Serta and welcome to Eden Crafters, the ultimate guide to trains. I did playthroughs on Ocean World early in the development, I think during the testing phase, and I got the rocket launched and everything, so I wasn't going to go through all of that again and waste your time with it. I have launched the rocket, the moon is sorted, there's no more wave, because today we're going to focus on checking out trains, what you can do with them, and how good they are. So let's get stuck in. Right, so it is nighttime, it's a bit dark. I'm going to go inside and we'll start off over here. As you can see, I have the material analyzer over here. Everything is done. I have the planet analyzer, very little done. Our next unlock is actually to get to the hottest area and set up those bases. I'm not really that concerned about it because it's not a double hot place, so one heat shield on your person is sufficient to work in that area and your buildings won't get destroyed. However, I have done some preparation work, and we're going to take a little drive out to a nice area that I've prepared, and I've basically just removed a couple of mountains. Unfortunately, there's a cave that would not be destroyed by my steamroller, but that's okay. We've got this huge area, and I've set up a little base over here. Now, this area is in the middle of the map, so once I stop, I'll open the map and you can have a look. Right, here we are. So, if we go to the map, we are located almost as central on the map as we can, and if we have a look around, we have resources on this island. I'm using most of them. I've got a couple over here that I could still exploit, which I might do, and we got some iron and cobalt over here. I'm using the nodes up on this area for my tech factory and for beams. I'm using this area to make my rotors, and this is all the basic materials over here. So the reason I wanted to do it from here is because this gives us pretty much a line of sight to the other islands, and the other islands are where the good stuff is happening. So this island over here, we have ruby, we have diamond, we have sapphire, and we have amethyst. We also have a lot of osmium and a lot of gold, and that's necessary for this stage of the game. Because right now, if we go into our building menu, we're going to need things like the advanced miner, which needs composite beams. Composite beams needs osmium. Gear assemblies need osmium. Osmium drills obviously need osmium. We also need a fair bit of carbon, which I have some. I've made a little setup over on this map, which is getting us a little bit of extra goodies. There is a uranium deposit in there as well. But there are a bunch of resources. I have a warehouse up here collecting some sulfur and I think a little bit of cobalt, but this is the place that we want to get to. Now, in order to get here, we're going to need to go across the ocean. The reason I've set up this huge open area that I have is because I'd like to make a large factory. But I need to get those resources from that island over here. And that's where trains come in. Now, this works on all the maps, even the maps where there's no water between the bits of land. But in this area where we have no gold, no osmium, we are going to create the things that need gold and osmium. But before we can do that, we need to unlock the trains. So if we press J and we go to the next objectives, all the train items are in here. The railway, the double railway track, the freight car. I don't see the train car here, but I assume it's going to be here. There's also the rail supports, and these are really important in transporting over very long distances. And there are two items that we can build to unlock those. The first is the advanced assembler, which needs reinforced frames, which we don't have. We need a fair bit of carbon for that. We need saw blades. There are a couple of things in there that we actually aren't able to build. So if we go to the build menu, the advanced assembler needs reinforced frames, saw blades, AI chips, and fast rotors. Some of those we can't make. Now the fast rotors, I think, we need the osmium stuff, we need gold wiring, and we need graphite. So that's obviously not something that we can do because we're not making that. On the other hand, oh good, the sun's coming up. We have the alloy forge, which we actually have everything. Now I handcrafted the plated connectors and the gold wiring and the insulation layers because I haven't automated them into a warehouse yet. But there's everything, and we can actually make an alloy forge right now. So to unlock the trains, all we really need to do is build that alloy forge. So if we hop into the build menu, go to the alloy forge and build it, a whole lot of stuff unlocks. All right, there it is. It's all showing the new recipes. And if I go into our build menu, there's all the train stuff, including the loco, and the train station, and the buffer stop. Now, those actually didn't show up for that unlock. Anyway, I'm running out of oxygen. So now that we have all of that, now I could pave this whole place, but that's too much like hard work. What I would like to do is I'd like to get a railway line from here to there. And maybe to there, because if we have a look at the map, we kind of need to get around this corner to get to these areas. Now, I could build a factory in here, but once we get there, you'll understand why. It's just not practical to build factories in this area. Obviously, it's extremely choked with the resource nodes, and some of the resource nodes are actually in caves, but the rest of it is just mountain. So very difficult to build a factory in this area, especially the size of the factory that we need to process all of this stuff. So what I'm going to do as a start, and I'm not planning this out super well, but I'm going to take one of these rail supports, I'm going to rotate it so that it points somewhat in the direction that I want to go. Click once, raise it up. Now, I don't have the steel alloy for that, but we've just unlocked steel alloy. And steel alloy needs iron ingots and graphene. So I'm going to have to set up a temporary facility for that. So let me get that sorted out. Okay, good. We are making steel alloy, and we're putting it into a tier 2 warehouse on the island that we are going to be going to. I've stuck it at the back so it doesn't really interfere. There's lots more graphites around, and I believe that you can put more than one miner onto a graphite node or any of the rock nodes. That would obviously include rock and phosphorus. So there we go. That is set up. We are now getting a lot of steel alloy. Perfect. So I'm going to hop back into my ship, and then we're going to go and get this process started. And we're back, and let's get going. So we're going to want to head over in that direction. We'll get our rail support up. We'll rotate and rotate one more time, and that kind of points us in the right direction. I don't think I'm going to get the rail line perfectly straight, but it'll be reasonably straight. We're going to click once, and then we're going to raise this one up because I'd like it to avoid anything that I have going on the ground here for now. Then we're going to get back in the ship, and we're going to go over there. Right, so there's our first base support right in front of us. Going to head as straight as I can across. Now, it's not necessary. I'm just trying to keep the lines a little bit straight. And I'm going to park myself down over here. So we're coming from there. You grab a position somewhere near the shore. So in that direction is where our first stand is. And we can grab this one, rotate, point it pretty much at that position. Click once, raise it up. Now I'm going to click on this. Select the recipe you want to use to connect the support. So we need to go and select, and I'm going to select the double track because I want to double track. And you can press E to preview, and it's going to show you that your track goes all the way across. That's not too bad. And then you can click, and I don't have enough steel alloy because it's going to cost me 761. I don't even have enough storage for that. And I'm going to put it down again. All right, there we go. So now we know that we have to save up a heck of a lot of steel to be able to do this. So at the warehouse where the steel is being stored, we go and have a look. We now, because of this warehouse, this tier 2 warehouse, we have our stack size up to 50. But 50 times 9 is only 450. That's not going to be enough for us to build that piece of track on its own. So we're going to need to do some splitting. I'm going to take out this piece, get into my drone, grab the conveyor splitter. So we'll just belt, and we'll have 3 positions. That should give us well over 1,000 steel alloy, and we'll need time to get that together. So once it's there, I'll be back. I've come back to the main island to just show that the way the tracks work is you have to connect one rail support to the previous rail support. So if I hover over this rail support, I'm getting no hints because I placed this one first. The next one I placed is over there, so that's where we need to go, because that was the second one that I placed. So a rail support will connect to a previous rail support. Right, so we're back over at this island, and I'll just run up here, and this was the last one that I placed, and then I can use the recipe. So I want the double track, and if I put it there, I press E to get the preview, and it shows me the preview that it's connecting to the last one. And when I click on it, it builds it. Right, that was really expensive. And there's a lot about the rails which is really expensive, but yep, we have a track connecting two islands, and it's two-way. So we can have the train come through in one direction and leave in another direction, which I believe means that we can have multiple trains on a track. So we're going to head over to the production area. Now, while I was waiting for the steel to get ready, I did build a couple of smaller facilities. One of them was for reinforced, doing the jig. One of them was for reinforced frames, and that one, the reason for the reinforced frames is because we need them for the locos, we need them for the freight cars, we need them for the train stations. So it's building, it's very slowly, it is a temporary facility. Now I could handcraft, but I figured, oh, what the hell, it's going to go slowly, but I can handcraft to make up the difference when it's needed. But we are going to need 100 of those reinforced frames to build a station. What I've also done is I've set up the osmium alloy production over here. The reason for that is, first of all, like any other resource that you're going to send, you're going to want to do initial processing at the source. So for example, iron or copper, they each take 2 ores to make 1 ingot. Now personally, I'd prefer to send 1 ingot rather than 2 ores. It doubles the speed of the delivery. But that's also minimum production, minimum power usage in a remote area. But right now I have a whole bunch of these solar panels and they don't work at night. And eventually I do want to get to the bigger power station, that being the geothermal plant, which I could put one over here. But obviously we need things for that, like the composite beam, which needs a whole lot of stuff that we are going to be producing over on the other side. And that is why we're making all of this stuff. So for now, I've got it running into this warehouse, but I'm going to cut that off. Yeah, see, we have a through the rock situation over here. Yeah, but eventually I'll be cutting that off and I'll be sending it by a train back to the main island. And this will allow me to handcraft a few of the composite beams. And the reason I wanted those composite beams is because right now our reinforced frame production is extremely slow. The reason for that is because we have one Mark 1 miner sitting over here making the beams to go into that system. So I want to upgrade this. And to upgrade it, you actually need composite beams. Now I made too many, but that's fine. I can just X this mine, take out this belt, and we are going to get the Mark II miner and hopefully find the correct position for it. I'm going to see if I can line it up with that opening, just like that. But now I'm not going to put because this is producing 360 per minute, I'm going to use some of the osmium alloy to make a tier 3 belt. That'll transport up to 240 per minute, which is less than what is being produced, but it will speed things up a little bit. Now, ideally, I would have more forges because this is still only producing 60 per minute. So I may have to change things up a little bit. And bear in mind, this would still be a temporary facility unless I decide to formalize the whole thing and just transport the frames over. Because there are items like the Advanced Miner 3 that actually uses reinforced frames, so they do need to be automated. Now you can see this has basically stopped moving because the one that produces 60 per minute is just not enough. Right now we could have 4 forges doing this. I'm going to set that system up. There are the 4 forges. We're just splitting it. This is probably overkill. That means that I can remove this forge now. I know this isn't... my inventory's full. Oh well. I grab that belt, throw it in there, and then we're going to have to merge. And I'm doing this very slapdash. We're going to grab this belt. We'll take it around the corner. That can go in there. This one can come around the corner over here. In there. And into there. And that will be more than enough to speed this up. Maybe I'll just upgrade these belts. And there we go. That should increase the production of the iron plates. And that will increase the production of the iron beams. Alright, it's not perfect, but it works. So yeah, there we go. We can see a heck of a lot more coming out. Good. So that's sorted. That'll sort out our reinforced frames, which will allow us to eventually build a train station. So I'll be back in a mo. And we are back, and I have enough now to make a station. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this station in over here. And if I go and hop into the station once it's built, you'll see that you can have freight cars. So you can have like 9 freight cars. You can have inputs and outputs for those freight cars. So you can decide which station a particular item is being dropped off at. Now, the stations only have one input and one output. Okay, the INO. So for the input over here, I'm going to grab the osmium alloy, which is not going into that warehouse anymore because that warehouse is full. That's great. So we'll just delete that. And I'm going to grab this belt and as neatly as possible, take it over to this train station, into the input. Yeah, and I know it's clipping through stuff, but I don't really care for this video. Not really an issue. I mean, this whole area is a mess. If I really wanted to formalize it, I would come in here with a steamroller and flatten everything out. Right, we haven't finished yet because we've got to get the railway line through. So what I will do, I know that our line comes across in that area somewhere. So I will bring a rail support in over here, raise it up a bit, select the double track and preview. Yep, that's what I want. Click on it. And then at this point, because we're fairly close to the railway station, I'm going to split this line. So we're going to take the single track, we'll put it on this side, and we're going to bring it through, and it will make its own tunnel. So we won't really be interfering with anything, I don't think. And then we can connect it to the train station. Tunnel made, nothing seems terribly affected, I don't think. We do have some things floating, and maybe a bit of rock here that we could get rid of. The gold deposit has dropped, but that's still working, which is cool. Okay, so you're going to need to be careful where you tunnel these things and how deep they are. And then for the outgoing railway line, we're going to take the single line. Now we could continue this through to a couple more stations, but for the purposes of this, I am just going to swing this around, see where we're going. I messed up my ship a little, and then I'm going to connect it back into this line right there. So we've created a bit of a loop, and I like how it puts the little chevrons in. Awesome. Oh, oxygen. Am I going to make it back to my ship? Maybe. Oh, I forgot I've got a jetpack. Right, well, let's move the ship. We can go back to the other island now. No, actually we can't, because I haven't set the station up properly yet. So let's just pop to the station quickly. Okay, so this is going to send to freight car 1. I could send it to freight car 2 if I had another freight car ahead of this. But this, what is coming in here now, is going into freight car number 1. Cool. Now we can go to the other side and set up the other station. Yep, and our line across the water looks pretty good. So we're back on the main island. Obviously, there's the map. There is our line running through, and we have our little loop at the end. So now I need to set up a receiving station over on this side. I'm going to bring it through over to here and grab another station. Going to rotate it like this. Make sure it's square with the grid. And I'm going to pop it in right there. Then I'm going to grab the... Oh, should I bring another double line closer? Nah, what the heck. And I'm going to have this loop around the back. So let me take it off this side. And I know it looks a little messy. We could tighten it by bringing it down to about there, and then bringing it through and connecting it up to the station, and then looping this back around. Now let's get the drone going, bring that through to there. I'm not being terribly cautious about this. There are no resources in this area that I'm worried about, so having a few loops through the mountain doesn't bother me too much. And then we connect that up to there. Good. So our train's going to come down on this side. It's going to offload. And we need to send it to somewhere. So for now, I'm just going to put a buffer box up. We'll grab container V1. Now, ultimately, this will go to a warehouse, but I think what I'm going to probably end up doing here is automating some of the items that need the osmium alloy. And for that reason, I don't think I need to put it into a warehouse. Warehouse 3 does have outputs. You can use that if you like. And then I'll just go for the maximum belt because I have osmium alloy. Shove it in there. Then go into the train station. Output over here. Freight car 1. So everything that comes in on freight car 1 will go in there. All that's left to do now is put the train on the track. So we'll start with the loco. And that's not the direction I wanted to go in. Okay, so I'm going to rotate and plop it down. So we have a loco. Then we're going to need a rail car, a freight car. We can just point at the loco and put it in. Now that's freight car 1, and we'll be able to go into it and see what's in it at any time. I can then use the loco. I can press W to start the train, get it up to speed, and I can just get out. And go and get myself some oxygen. So I hope this works. But the train is off. We go to the map, we can see the train. It's heading over in that direction. And I'm just interested to see if it actually stops at the station, because I have had a little bit of trouble with it before. Anyway, it's coming. Now you can have massive quantities of that specific resource, whichever resource you want, coming into a station, and that fills up while the train is away, and when the train comes, it picks all of it up and takes it off to the other side. So you can really transport a lot of material a long way. And the train is coming in hot. Is it slowing down? It looks like it's slowing down. Awesome. It stopped at the station, hopefully picking up, and then it moves on. Right, let's see what happens when it gets back. And on the map, you can see the train arriving. There it is. And it's coming along at a steady rate with a whole lot of stuff on it, hopefully. Oh no, no oxygen. But I want to see this. Okay, it's offloading, and there we go. We have all of our stuff coming through. Alright, let me go get oxygen before I perish. And it's going to keep doing that loop until I stop it. So it brought a few things over. We now have osmium alloy in this container. And it brought through quite a bit of it. 150. So good. That is how you set up a looped system. Now, because I'm only going from one station to another, I could have had a single line going out, and instead of using, let me show you what I mean, instead of using a loop and a double track, I could have saved myself a lot of material by using the buffer stop. So if I was to take a single track, put it down, I'll stretch it out. If you hold Alt, it does straighten it. And then at each end, we put a buffer stop in. That buffer stop will just cause the train to turn around. It doesn't look pretty. It just does a switch. It flips, and then it heads back in the direction that it came from. So you could use this system on this line, but I do intend to have more stations going out in that direction, because there's quite a lot of material that I do want to collect. So I might have a whole bunch of stations. In terms of having multiple items going into a station, the problem with that is if one of them backs up, then the whole system stops, which is why I'd have one station for each resource. And that's why you need a permanent supply of all the materials for the trains. Reinforced frames going to be the first thing that you're going to need a lot of. And obviously, you know, the steel alloy for the tracks. But the reinforced frames is something that you're going to need to set up quite quickly. And that, if you do it efficiently, you're going to need a lot of iron, because the iron beams, let's just go into that. Reinforced frames. So the iron beams, you're going to need 4 per reinforced frame. Reinforced frames are produced at 45 per minute. So that's 360 iron beams that you're going to need. That means that for iron beams, you have iron plates. That produces 90 per minute. You're going to need 3 assembly machines pushing out 360 iron beams. That's to make it efficient, so that it runs at 45 per minute. So as you can see, the setup can be huge, which is why I wouldn't want to try and put it in a location over there. I'd like to do the pre-processing in the source location, bring materials over, and there's usually iron all over the place. So, I mean, if we look at the map, I've got a little bit of iron over there that I'm not using. I've got iron over there. I can use trains to bring those 2 nodes in, and I can bring a lot of iron in by putting the higher tier miners on those nodes. But I could get iron from other places as well. There's iron down here, there's a bit of iron there, and with trains it kind of makes it a lot easier, because you don't have to run your track manually. You can put one support in one place, one support in the next place, doesn't matter how far away it is, and then just connect the 2. Which makes it much easier. Yeah, this took a little longer than I expected, but I did want to show the need for all the different types of materials that would need to go into the trains in order to make this a proper train guide. But like I said, you can have multiple trains on one track, you can have multiple stations on one track, so we could have another station over that side collecting gold ingots, for example, and then I could have another train station out in this direction where it drops off the gold ingots, maybe connect two stations together, something I haven't tried before. Yeah, I don't have enough to build another station right now, but pretty sure that you could just connect two stations together. Yeah, that might be an interesting idea. Give me a second. Right, the train is back, and I will have a moment to get things sorted out. Ah, look at that, the container actually goes up and comes down. I didn't notice that before. Anyway, so once it's out of reach, I'm going to delete this piece of track. See if I can snap a station onto this. So we're going to swing it around, and if I connect that, I am kind of hoping that this track actually connects. It doesn't appear to be connecting. Well, we'll see when the train gets back. I might need to leave a small bit of space. But yeah, let's swing this back to where it's supposed to be. Oh boy, it's supposed to connect to this over here. But we are making some groovy tunnels. But the train is almost back, so moments of truth. If this works, that would be very cool. Okay, it appears to be going through. It's on a track, and it is carrying on. That is brilliant, because that means you can connect a whole bunch of these together. You can have the same on the other side, feeding a lot of stuff in, and putting that all out. Let's say, for example, you had 5. You could put all 5 of those resources into a tier 3 warehouse, which has 5 inputs, and it also has 5 outputs, so you can back up the materials that you've got in a warehouse and then send it out to production. So it's possible to even do it on a single line. It gets through, buffer stops, turns it around, comes back through. That's quite possible as long as you've got the sets up correct, outputs to freight car 2, that would work. But there you go. That, folks, is the ultimate guide to trains in Eden Crafters. And there might even be some improvements later on that'll make this even better. This is just the first release of trains in Eden Crafters, and it's still in early access, so yeah, lots to come. Anyway, if you like this video, give us a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. Leave me your comments, let me know your thoughts, let me know if this has helped you. It took me a fairly long time to get to this point, just from a brand new map, and I've done everything sort of geared towards just getting the train set up. So there's a lot of automation that I could have done for other things at the same time. But yeah, this is fun. It worked out pretty well, and we now have a better idea of how the trains work in Eden Crafters. And I'm thinking that I will do another playthrough on Ocean World if there's a demand for it, so yeah, drop me your comments, let me know if you're keen on it. But thank you very much for joining me on this little adventure. And until next time, cheers!